but I don't like getting hit at night. And the snoring was keeping my wife awake, so every single night. Like, why are you waking me up? Leave me alone. You're snoring. No, I'm not. No,
sounds about right.
That's just one. I'm not going to say that's the most important piece, but that's a piece.
That's the most important piece. You're right.
It'll
You're right.
save
I think
some
so.
bruises. Welcome. Oh, you're late. Hey, stretch.
I thought we were
Ready? No, we do it
Are
over.
we doing the same time or you're first?
I don't know.
You didn't talk about it.
Welcome to Just Talk It.
With Scylla. Wait, no, it's with Sean and Scylla. Maybe I need a sleep apnea test.
Yeah. So what we're talking about today is going to be talking about sleep apnea, sleep studies, with the DOT physical and everything. We're going to be talking with John Varela from WorkSTEPS. Yes, he specializes in this, and he's going to express to us how the whole thing works from the beginning, from getting the DOT physical, and they say, oh, your neck size is too big, or oh, you're overweight, or whatever it could be.
It's not really about that. It's more about what John's going to talk about. So like, subscribe, comment, let us know.
And by the way, sorry if I sound a little hoarse. I had some allergies. They've been killing me. But I got my booster.
What?
But here we go. Here's John. All right. So welcome to the show, John. So, honestly, we talk a lot about different things behind the scenes. You got to have a DOT physical in order to be able to get even a license or continue to have one. Mm-hmm. That's a huge thing you got to have. So in a DOT physical, tell us, John, what is it that you do in regards to that and everything else that you do, and what you're about, John, and the company you work for?
Okay, cool. Well, my name's John Varela. I'm with WorkSTEPS Sleep, part of WorkSTEPS Inc. We're one of the only single source providers for everything occupational health in the U.S. So whether it's drug screening, respirator fit tests, physicals, DOTs, sleep apnea testing, we have providers all over the country that are handling this for some of the largest companies in the U.S. As far as the process, I think that you're talking about, the driver going from the physical to the getting recommended for sleep apnea to getting a hold of us and then moving on to getting fully certified. That's kind of a loaded question and actually a really big question. So the driver first goes in for their every other year physical, and the examiners are looking for drivers that have a BMI, so body mass index, of 33 to 40. So the FMCSA says 33 to 40. Some examiners are going 35 to 45. But if they have that elevated BMI, so a little bit larger guy, kind of like myself, they're going to be looking for other indicators. They're going to be looking for neck size, 19-inch neck. I meet the criteria there. They're looking, when the doctor tells you to stick out your tongue and say, they're looking in the upper airway. It's called the Mellon-Putty grading scale. And so it's between 1 through 4. 3 and a 4 would be a positive indicator of sleep apnea. They're looking at age. They're looking at, so men 43 and above, women postmenopausal. They're looking for elevated blood pressure. So, we hear a lot of times blood pressure is fine. Okay, are you on any blood pressure medication? Well, yeah, I'm on 2 or 3 different medications. Well, that's also an indicator of sleep apnea. Looking for diabetes type 2. Diabetes type 2 is also directly correlated to sleep apnea. So I don't have the full list of all 11 indicators, but that's what the examiners have it standardized now. If you have the elevated 33 to 40 BMI and at least 3 other factors, then they're going to go ahead and recommend sleep apnea testing. So at that point, they're going to give you a 90-day card and tell you to go get tested and treated if needed before coming back. again, this is kind of a loaded question because under the traditional setting, you would call up your sleep doctor and schedule an appointment. Well, national average for sleep apnea testing in the US right now is over 50 days, almost 2 months to get in to see a specialist for a consultation to see if you're a good candidate for a sleep study, even though the DOT examiner said you were. Then it's going to be another few weeks before you go get your test. And then another couple of weeks to get your results. You're pushing that 3-month line right away. And that's even before getting put onto treatment if you need it, let alone being compliant on treatment before going back. So that's what the driver experience is like as far as the beginning of the process. Where we come into it is once you get referred for sleep apnea testing, and actually we're one of 3 preferred providers nationally for one of the largest occupational health providers in the US. And so there's a good chance if you go to one of the nationals, you're going to get referred over to our company. You'll get the phone number, you call us up and say, hey, I need to get a sleep test. One of the barriers for sleep apnea testing is the cost. When I was working at a hospital, actually just right down the street here, the cost to go in and see a specialist for the consultation runs about $300 to $400 depending on who the insurance is. But if you're paying out of pocket, which most drivers are because they're trying to get a new job and don't have insurance, they're paying $300 to $400 just for the consultation. The sleep study can run anywhere from $600 to $1,000 if it's an at-home test like ours, or $3,000 if they do it in lab just for the diagnostic portion of it. Then you got to look at treatment, cost of treating it.
I don't mean to cut you off real quick.
Yeah.
Question. So you mentioned the wait time is about, you said pushing 3 months, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
2 months, and then you have to actually be on the machine for a certain period of time to show data that you're actually using it and whatnot as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you're paying, like you said, that out of cost money of about $300 to $500. Now, are we paying this as soon as I went into the hospital to get that started, or is this like a payment after I started this? How does that work for them?
So if you're going through a traditional medical facility, like your local medical group, whether it's Kaiser or here in Seattle, Virginia Mason, Group Health, Swedish, Providence, any of the big ones, they're going to first ask you for your insurance card, right? And if you don't have insurance, they're going to say, okay, well, how are you going to pay for this appointment? And they're going to figure that out with you up front. And so I know from one of the places that I worked previously, they would actually want to secure payment first before having you come in. They may schedule the consultation with the doctor, but they're not going to do the actual testing if you need it until it's paid for. And so, again, we kind of came out swinging with a big question right out of the bat.
Yeah,
that's kind of all-encompassing.
Straight to the point.
Straight to it. Let's dive into this mother
sucker. Not sugarcoated.
Yeah, no, it's been a big deal. I mean, like you said, it's little things like just weight and neck size. And I know from experience, especially men, they don't like to, go to the doctor sometimes.
That's a guy thing. We don't,
I know. And then they don't like to be told that something's wrong on top of it, right?
Do you want to know why I'm tired? Because I work hard.
Yeah, that's literally the response. I'm tired because I work hard. Not because I actually didn't sleep last night, because I didn't breathe. But we jumped right into the meat. But beforehand, can we explain what sleep apnea?
Yeah. Well, overall? Let's do this. Obviously, I want to put it in a way of, hey, I'm just a regular guy needing to get a DOT physical. I get a physical. How they do it, and then what do I have to do, and then what is it in regards to it, and what's the best route and option. Those are the things that we're supposed to do.
So I think we're getting to it. We grabbed the big potatoes of it first, and then now I'm going to kind of go into what it looks like for the normal person who's going through this.
Yeah.
So if they were to come through our company, which you've seen the process, it works. It's very easy. So when the driver gets referred for sleep apnea testing and they get our information, they call us up and say, "Hey, I need to get a sleep test." We said that it's $300 to $400 to see a specialist. It's another $700 to $1,000 to get a test through another company. We actually use the DOT physicals, that referral from them for testing. So we kind of use that to take out some of the steps in the process. And then the driver would do an intake with us. We charge $250 for everything. So that's, the consultation, the sleep test, getting your results, and the prescription if needed. The turnaround time on that, as you saw, you got a hold of me. You're saying that you needed to get a sleep test. I had one out. Due to my problem, I think it was 48 hours versus 24 hours. UPS didn't pick up that day, and so your test didn't get out. But otherwise, we can usually have a test out within 24 hours. When you test, the information uploads into our cloud. And when you test, it's just a little watch that you wear, one probe on the finger, and then one little wire that tapes to the chest.
So basically, backtracking here a little bit, some guy that we're not going to mention any names was told he had sleep apnea and needed to have a sleep study done. So that person reached out to John, and John sent me this lovely gear. Let me get it out.
There. Perfect.
Yes. So basically, this little bitty watch just goes right on my wrist here. It's pretty neat. Then this little finger thing, I put my finger in it. And then I just run this wire, and it has a sticky thing right here. And it just sticks right here while I sleep. And I have the phone on, the app. There's an app that's provided. I have my phone on the charger all night. The app's reading from this thing, and it's doing the whole study. And then tell us a little bit about John, the readings that you got from this.
So the neat thing about this actual at-home test, there's a few different types of at-home tests you can do. This is the most technologically advanced system that's on the market. It's called WatchPat 1. It's disposable. It has, when we send it out to you, there's a serial number that you use that connects the phone and the watch via Bluetooth. And in the morning when it's done, it uploads into the cloud. This also is the most accurate at-home test on the market. If you were to be using insurance or, say, Medicare, for instance, they actually pay, I think it's something like 13% more on the reimbursement side for this because it does have more data. It gives us wake, sleep, and sleep staging. It tells us when you're breathing, when you're not breathing, gives us your heart rate, and correlates all that together to give us an overall, what we call a histogram of your sleep. So we're looking to see, how many times per hour you stop breathing. We want to see how low your blood oxygen level goes. We want to see whether your heart's racing or slowing down at night. And those are all things that we're looking at. We can also see that thing that tapes to your chest is a body position sensor and a snore microphone. So we can actually hear what you're talking about during the test. I'm kidding. It doesn't do that. No, it's measuring snoring in decibels. I want to talk to you guys later, by the way.
Oh, no.
I'm just kidding.
I'm not saying stuff in my sleep. Oh my God.
It just measures in decibels, and then also tells us, what position you're laying in, so we can know when you're sleeping on your back, side, or stomach, if it's worse. One of the reason that's important is a lot of times you'll see people who never sleep on their back during the test. They roll over onto their back and they can't breathe because everything's falling back and occluding the airway, and then they turn over. And you'll see that happen a couple of times at night where they're tossing and turning because every time they roll over, they can't breathe. And so the reason that they're not sleeping on their back is because they can't breathe on their back. We see that change once they put the CPAP machine on. I can't tell you how many times I've heard somebody say, "Man, I put the CPAP machine on, I sleep on my back, and it's great. I don't wake up with a backache in the morning." It's awesome. But anyway, I got off track.
I mean, it was super, I was worried, how am I going to sleep with this thing on, and honestly, it wasn't, I slept like I normally did. I didn't even know it was really there. It was really easy to use. Very easy to set up. I mean, it didn't take a rocket science, degree to make that happen. And so, talking about me, I guess my readings. What did it say I had? It was
I
like
believe you were at 30. Was it 34?
no, it was like
31 or 34?
43, I think.
43 an hour.
Yeah, yeah. So tell
And
me,
so
what does that
that
mean?
okay, so we're looking at obstructive sleep apnea events. Sleep apnea is stopping breathing for at least 10 seconds or longer, with at least a 3% oxygen desaturation with it. So what we see is breathing slows down a little bit. Related to that stoppage of breathing, the blood oxygen level drops, and then you wake up, and then usually we'll see your heart start to race after that. And so the way we grade sleep apnea, 0 to 5 respiratory events per hour is non-clinically significant, 5 to 15 events per hour is mild, 15 to 30 is moderate, 30 and above is severe. So you would fall into the severe range. As far as the FMCSA goes and truckers, you do great with the CPAP machine, though. I mean, the guy that we were working with you does great with the CPAP machine.
Right. That guy.
Yeah, I think we got him down to something like 1.5 events per hour from 43 when on the machine. But as far as the FMCSA goes, and we follow their guidelines, part of the reason is my main business partner is the physician who chaired the medical review board for FMCSA back in 2007 when they wrote the original regulation. But their recommendation is moderate to severe sleep apnea patients need to be on CPAP. Only mild symptomatic patients. So if you're asymptomatic, and we do an intake with you to go through your level of sleepiness, if you're asymptomatic, meaning you're not sleeping, you don't fall asleep behind the wheel, you don't fall asleep while you're watching TV regularly, just laying around, you're not falling asleep, then you're not going to be in the excessively sleepiness range. So you can still have mild sleep apnea and not have to use the CPAP machine. It's just those moderates and severes that need to be on PAP because the risk of crash does come after, I believe it's an AHI of 20. So.
Okay. So that happens. I get told all this. Explain to everyone listening, what is sleep apnea?
Yes. Exactly.
So
what is this thing that we're talking about?
So what we're talking, and we use sleep apnea interchangeably with obstructive sleep apnea. Obstructive sleep apnea is where there's an occlusion of the upper airway. So as you're sleeping, the airway collapses. Usually comes with a snore. That's air getting back through that airway and opening it back up. Again, like I said, it's 10 seconds. It's an event that lasts 10 seconds or longer. And to be judged clinically significant, it has to have at least 3 to 4% oxygen desaturation associated to it. Now, there's other kind of sleep apnea where it's more, so you have, it's more of a respiratory drive issue. And we find that with people who had traumatic brain injury, who are on narcotic pain medication, or heart failure patients a lot of times because their CO2 levels are kind of going up and down, and when they're not regulated, that actually regulates your breathing. And so we see a waxing and waning in their breathing. But for what we're talking about, obstructive sleep apnea is the airway being occluded from excess flesh, specifically in trucking. Drivers are a lot bigger. National average for sleep apnea in the U.S. is about 10%. When you go over the road trucking, you're looking at, I believe it's 28%. And it's weight related. At CVTA, when one year we heard one person say that the average over the road truck driver in the first 6 to 12 months will gain over 50 pounds. And I see it all the time. We work with one of the top 10 largest trucking companies to do all of their testing in their terminals. And I lost my tech that was working out of LA. And so a lot of times I'll just fly down there and do it myself. And I can't tell you how many guys will come in and say, I don't know what happened. I used to be fit. I used to go to the gym every day. I'm 100 pounds heavier than when I started a year and a half, 2 years ago. Gaining 100 pounds in 2 years is not uncommon. I see it all the time. And for that, I'm kind of a good case in point for that. Right now, I'm about 40 pounds heavier than I normally am. And all of this flesh right here has me in the moderate pushing severe range of sleep apnea. But 40 pounds lighter than I am now, I don't have sleep apnea at all.
Wow.
And I don't drive a truck.
Yeah, and that goes, hand in hand with, we had an episode number 2 with a doctor, and watching what you eat, exercising, getting out of the truck, moving around, simple stuff, will obviously, assist that issue of gaining the weight, because there's nothing but fried food out there at the truck stops. But that's huge, and those little things can really curb that. So what questions do you have about sleep apnea?
So, that's really interesting that you said that, because I was actually thinking at the CBTA this year, they had the yoga instructor, right? And she was explaining that just drinking a little more water versus soda helps. Or when you wake up, drink a bottle of water, and then go on your day. And just adding that helps so many drivers. Or, just like you explained, just getting out your truck and doing little simple movements can definitely help versus not doing nothing at all. Because like you explained, that just happens. And and unfortunately, right, that's the circumstance of being a trucker. But even before being a trucker,
it's a sedentary lifestyle, but it's you're sitting down, so that's going to happen. Same thing with office jobs.
I mean, I'm sure we've gained weight, or no, you've lost a lot of weight. But like like you were saying, you gained 40 pounds, but it's because now we're sitting more and we're on the computer more and we're not doing those little movements that are so important. But I do have a question, because we had a student actually on our Facebook who asked us about hypertension and medication used for treatment. And is there medication that correlates with this or doesn't correlate with this?
I have heard that there is a pill that's going through FDA trials right now, clinical trials. Obstructive sleep apnea is it's as analog as you get. It's a structural thing. It's the airway collapsing. There's not really a pill they can do that's going to stimulate that. But you bring a good point. Hypertension, directly related to sleep apnea. Anybody who's, it has that elevated BMI and is on multiple hypertension meds, that, I believe they say it's 3, but really, And now let me back up. I'm not a physician. I can't give any medical advice. I'm a therapist by trade, but got to be careful there. A lot of times we'll see folks that are on 2 medications. They have an elevated BMI, and they're still having a hard time controlling their blood pressure. We get them onto a CPAP, and they're down to 1 medication, and everything's fine. We'll see people that are on 1 medication that just have slightly elevated blood pressure, and as soon as you get them on CPAP, they're done. Pre-diabetic patients, because diabetes type 2 is directly related to sleep apnea. Folks with elevated sugar levels, will get them onto a CPAP and no more issues with that. Or diabetes type 2, we can get work to get them off if it's weight related. But your body metabolizes everything when it's sleeping. So if you're never getting good quality sleep, that was the other thing with sleep apnea, is that if you're waking up, say 40 times an hour, you're not really getting that good sleep. You may get into REM sleep, but it's going to pull you right back out of REM sleep. So you're just kind of nudging all night long. A lot of times we see older folks, I say older, just a little bit older than me, like 50s, 60s, and they are getting up to use the restroom multiple times at night. And as soon as you get them onto CPAP, that doesn't happen, because your body stops all of those processes when it's sleeping, and when it wakes up, it turns on, turns off, turns on, turns off, turns on, turns off. And so those things will get better as well. So I guess it's kind of a roundabout way to say there's not going to be a pill for sleep apnea, but treatment for sleep apnea can help with hypertension.
Okay. And then, and for the student, for a student.
Or a driver, anybody doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't
Well, my question is, as a student, right? They're not hired by the company yet,
right. So they don't have
so
insurance.
they'll have to pay for it.
Yeah, okay.
So then, when they are a driver, now the company pays for it. Is that how it works?
The insurance will pay for it if they have to.
You're hitting all of the points. That is
Okay, I wanted to make sure I was hearing that.
that's you 100% are hitting everything on nail on the head. So you have a student who doesn't have a job, who goes to get a DOT physical, and now they've been flagged for sleep apnea. Well, they have 90 days to get tested and treated. So if you guys have an account with a company that's going to put them right over the road, or go into training, they're with you guys for what, 2-3 weeks? Is that right?
Yeah, 3 to 4 weeks. So they're here. So that's 1 month.
So if they get immediately placed, they're doing okay, especially if they go to work for one of the larger companies, one of the top, we'll just say top 10 over the road groups. They're probably going to have a sleep apnea program, so they'll be fine. The reality is they could be going to work for the local metro. They could be going to drive a dump truck. They could be doing something where the employer's not going to pay for it, and they're going to not get insurance for the first 90 days, right? So employer's not going to pay for it. Insurance isn't going to pay for it. They don't have a job, so they probably don't have money in the bank for it. I saw this time and time again. I saw this time and time again while I was working at the hospital, and it's heartbreaking. It's like, okay, you got everything you need to get this done, but you don't have the means to get the test, which is why I actually left a great job with this view behind me, the hospital right over here, to create a program to make it more affordable for people. Like I said, we charge $250 for that.
Yeah, it's an amazing program. I mean, like you said, it's if I got to pay $300 to get the consult from the specialist. All right, then I got to pay another $700 to $1,000. I'm now like $1,300 into this. Probably can't finance that. And then if I do have it, now I'm going to need a CPAP machine. So now I got to spend money. And how much do those usually run?
Through the traditional setting, you're looking at $1,500 to $2,500 for the CPAP.
Right. So now I've got this much money and I don't have insurance. That's a huge problem.
Yeah.
So with what you got going on, all I got to do is pay $250. I get results and everything, and then so tell us about they're moderate to severe and they need a CPAP machine. What happens now?
So if they get it through us, then essentially it gets mailed out as fast as the test did. I think the whole process for you, it was fast for you. Most people usually take some time to take the test. They get the test and they're, wait a week or two, and we usually will call up and say, hey, you got this test, do it. They do the test, they get the results, and then they'll work with one of our therapists to get the CPAP machine. CPAP machine mails out. They usually have it within a couple of days. They're doing a virtual setup with one of our techs, and then they get follow-up care through our respiratory therapists, and they're off and running. They've got however much time is left on that card. A lot of times, say they've got 2 or 3 weeks left on the card before they have to go back. As long as they have that machine, most DOT examiners will give them another 30 days to get compliant. And what we're looking for in the first compliance is 30 days of at least 70% of the nights. So if we're looking at a 30-day window, that's 21 nights with at least 4 hours or more of use. And I always tell people, if you wake up and turn the machine off, because it tells you how long you used it, if it says 3 hours and 59 minutes, you got to hit that 4 hours. Otherwise, that's a wasted night. So 21 nights for at least 4 hours of the night. Once they get that, the examiner will give them usually, I can't speak for all examiners, but usually we'll give them another 1-year card. And then just like if you're on blood pressure medication, diabetes type 2 medication or whatever, you'll come back yearly for your physical.
Okay. So how much is the machine through you guys, and is there financing on that?
Yeah, so there's the machines through us are just a little over $1,000. And we do offer financing through a couple of different means. We have a third-party group we work with. They have, their terms. It's rough. I would say only about 5%, 5 to 10% of the folks we put through them actually get approved. And the reason why that's a thing is because they actually work with challenged credit as well. So it's the folks we're getting don't seem to have real good credit. So what I did is actually put together a program where it's more of a payment plan. They put half down and then they pay off the rest of it over the following 3 months. And they just have to have an open bank account with a debit card secured on it so that we can be sure to set up the automatic payments. We also do that for testing. We try not to do it too much for testing because, there is a finance fee or a processing fee that we put on it. It's not big, but, added to the sleep test, it's tough. So, like I said, our testing price is $250. If they can put down like $140, then we can get them up and running, and they can pay the rest of the test off after that as well.
Do know if
that's part?
Oh, sorry. Continue.
I was just going to say, our main objective is to get these drivers on the road as fast as possible, and we're going to do everything from a business that we can. We still have to be protected. Like, I can't just give it away, but we are doing this for folks that wouldn't be able to get credit or financing any other way.
Right.
It does come from a good place.
Does do companies, like, let's say for example, I paid this, do companies like reimburse or anything for it? Because I did it up front.
Some of the smaller companies will, especially if they're a family company. But for the most part,
but insurance is insurance. They can't backdate that. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was just wondering, like, for students and stuff, what can we do now? Now we've talked about how much it costs. We talked about what it is, process, waiting time, all this fun stuff. One of our last questions is, what is the risk of this? Like, what's the point? Why is this a big deal? Like, what's that?
Well, one of the things that we don't realize is that a majority of these accidents that are caused by drivers falling asleep due to sleep apnea end up getting settled out of court, so we don't hear about them. I'm going to say it was 2016. There was a big accident, and I think it might have been in California, where the driver had sleep apnea. I believe was also prosecuted for murder over it because they killed a bunch of people. I'm not positive about the specific crash, so I say that lightly. But the NTSB also held the examiner accountable for it, liable for it, because the driver clearly should have been tested and treated for sleep apnea, and they were just passed through. And so examiners are now realizing, because this has been in place, it's been best practices since 2007. It's just there's never been a federal regulation put through. There was one that was supposed to go through in 2016, but the last administration pulled it due to wanting less regulation out there. But there are stats that show drivers that have a moderate to severe sleep apnea are at a higher risk of crash, and those crashes do kill people. That big train accident, I think in Jersey with the commuter train, sleep apnea. It was like 2 years ago, or just before the pandemic. I want to say there was 2 or 3 high-profile crashes. The driver had untreated sleep apnea, and so if you do the research out there and actually start digging, there's a lot more crashes that are happening that we just aren't privy to because large companies pay for them to go away.
Yeah, I understand. And honestly, other than the risk of crashing, let's just say I'm an office employee or whatever it may be, why should I worry about my sleep apnea? Like, I can deal with it, right? There's no effects, right?
I don't know. For me, I don't have to have a CPAP machine, but I don't like getting hit at night. And the snoring was keeping my wife awake, so every single night. Like, why are you waking me up? Leave me alone. You're snoring. No, I'm not. No.
Sounds about right.
That's just one. I'm not going to say that's the most important piece, but that's a piece.
That's the most important piece. You're right.
It'll
You're right.
save
I think
some
so.
bruises.
No, we're talking about risk of high blood pressure, diabetes type 2, heart attack, stroke, in those mild.
I heard it puts a lot of pressure on the heart.
If you don't have the air in your lungs where the heart to pump the blood through to get out, it builds up pressure and
Well, that's why
just
you
puts a
have
strain on the rest of your body.
and stuff.
I don't know.
I'm saying you can get hypertension because of it.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, it has a lot of risk. Not
Not
only
to
the
mention,
heart, but I mean, it can honestly, not enough oxygen can also, hurt the brain.
yeah. Look, and that's a good point. So another thing that we don't talk a lot about is anxiety, depression. Tenfold exacerbates anxiety and depression if you're not getting sleep. Those are a couple of other big ones.
Yeah, and you feel, drowsy all day. It's hard to keep moving, stay focused at work. There's a lot of benefits. Yeah.
So I'll just say one of our executives, he actually came to me about 6 months ago and was like, I think I need to get a sleep test. My wife's complaining of snoring. I'm just not with it. Can we get this checked out? And so we got him checked out. He was actually, I believe, just in the upper mild, low moderate range, but it was affecting his sleep so much that he just wasn't on a functional level, didn't feel as sharp as he was. Put him on a CPAP machine. He's like, it feels like I'm drinking a cup of coffee first thing in the morning when I wake up, and I don't have to drink coffee.
That's really good.
That was nice.
Absolutely. I had someone reach out to me too, and they had a question for you.
Yep.
They're scared of doing the CPAP machine and trying to fix it because they're claustrophobic of anything on their face when they're sleeping and how it works and everything. They're just turned off by that so much that they're willing to risk their own health.
Yeah, and we see that a lot because the idea of the mask before was a big old Darth Vader Bane mask, giant thing. Luke, I am your father. If I had a dime for every time somebody said that to me when I was in the sleep center, it's crazy. Realistically, the mask, as your friend probably told you, is just a tiny little thing that plugs in the front of your nose now.
Yeah.
I mean, I use that. People always complain, well, I'm a stomach sleeper. So am I. I sleep on my stomach like this, and that mask doesn't push off of my nose. It's fine. So I think two different things. One, the masks have gotten extremely, and then the other big thing is that back in the day when I've been doing this for 20 years. When I was working in the sleep center 20 years ago, we had a tech that one of my training techs. His biggest thing was when in doubt, pressure in the snout, meaning kick up the pressure. And we would send people out of the sleep center on pressures of like 16. And so we actually measure in centimeters of water pressure versus PSI. I don't know what the conversion is, but the pressure's not super high. In relation to where those pressures were, your friend, I think, has been sitting, actually, I can tell you right now. Yeah, your friend's pressure, the median pressure has been going up to 8. So half of the pressure of what we used to do is where we're at now. And we find that people are able to tolerate the machine tenfold for better masks and lack of high pressures.
Yeah, and I saw it also comes with some type of humidifier on it and everything now.
Yep. So you don't want to dry out. We always tell people, especially when they're early on in their usage, use the humidifier. If you don't use it and you get dried out, start getting bloody noses, kind of irritated sinuses. So yeah, humidifiers a big deal.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's really neat.
That is pretty neat.
So, we've talked about all this. What kind of issues have you dealt with in the industry of the sleep apnea and everything? What's been your biggest hurdles or biggest counters to you?
So when we did that last little clip at CVTA, I introduced myself as the most hated man in trucking. Drivers feel like we're out there trying to take their jobs away, and that's not it. We're just trying to make the roads a little bit safer, and we're also doing it in a way that I think it is really respectful towards the driver, as far as, if you're asymptomatic, we're not going to force you to use the CPAP machine. It's only the moderates and severes that we want to make sure are, which is where the risk of crash comes from. They're being treated. And then one of the biggest issues that we have is this is not a regulation. This is not on the books. It is and it isn't. In the electronic code of federal regulation, it does state in there, and I don't have it in front of me, so I'll probably misquote a little bit, but if the driver has a respiratory disorder that could cause incapacitation, it goes through and lists out COPD, emphysema, asthma, and sleep apnea is the last thing that's listed there. They must be tested and or treated before they're able to get a full card. So it's in there, but there's no guideline to it as far as, okay, who has to, who doesn't. That comes on the medical examiner's side. And so it's via medical examiner's best practices. They're held liable for making sure that the drivers they put through are safe.
And being liable, if I'm putting my name on you, then I could get sued as well. So I mean, I'm not gonna be willy nilly with it. I want to make sure that it's not gonna come back on me. That's for sure.
But drivers know that there are examiners that will. They doctor shop a lot, and I'm not saying all drivers do, but it happens. It's you'll get flagged for sleep apnea with one driver, and we get it all the time. We'll get people who want to return their tests to us because they went to this examiner over here, and then their buddy told them, "Oh, we should have went to this one," and they'll just switch over and go get another one. Which, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's fraud. It's a they're messing with the federal document. We can't hold them liable for it. We can't hold them accountable. It is what they're going to do. What they're going to do. But it does happen, probably more so than people would think.
I know with bigger companies you can't because you got to use their doctor, but so it is what it is.
So I think just our biggest barrier is dealing with the comment, this isn't a federal regulation. No, it's not, but.
Yeah, I mean, the at-home test that you guys have in comparison to, what it used to be, you got to go into this facility. They got a million wires on you. Like, I can see a driver not wanting to do that because, I mean, that's going to take away from my ability to make money. I got to go and find the time to go into this place and have a million wires. And how am I going to really sleep at this facility well anyways? Versus I can be at home, I can be in the truck. The truck can take this thing, Yeah.
Well, even the at-home technology has gotten a lot better. The old at-home test had a belt that went around your chest and abdomen. It had a nasal cannula, kind of like an oxygen cannula that plugged in your nose at night. You had the pulse oximeter, snore microphone, and then the recording unit was a big box that connected to that chest belt. And you'd have to sleep with that at home. I mean, it was crazy. And that's actually what I started using at first. One, because it was a heck of a lot cheaper than the unit that we use now, but accuracy-wise, it's like 17% less accurate than the in-lab test versus ours. We're within 5% of the in-lab test. So.
That's awesome.
It's really good, yeah. All right.
Well,
Did you want to add anything else?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, you too, man. We appreciate everything you do for the industry. Try to keep the road safe, keep drivers working. So, other than that, man, it's always good to see you. Enjoy the weather out there.
Yeah, it's cold. I'm actually starting to chill.
Cold 20 degrees. Is it going to snow for Christmas?
We don't get a ton of snow down here. Once you go about 20 minutes in either direction, they'll probably get snow, but we're sitting at sea level, and we also have the Puget Sound right over here that it works oddly like a giant radiator. It's like, I think, 57 degrees, and so even when the temperature drops, it's working to keep the area warmer, which also is great for the summer, because when it gets hot at night, I always say that Seattle's weather is one of the most respectful weather systems in the world, because it'll be 95 degrees one day, but at night it's going to drop right down to 65, 70 degrees. Sleep with your windows open. You don't have to have air conditioning. It's awesome.
And that's kind of cool. But I know you're close to Snoqualmie up there, and that gets a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, they actually Pass just opened, so I'll probably go next week to do snowboarding. The cool thing about living in downtown Seattle is I'm 45 minutes from sitting on a chairlift just right over here.
Yeah. It's a really nice place. Well, have a good rest of your day. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us and go over all this. We'll talk to you later.
Cool, man. Take care.
Well, that was awesome about John getting on here talking to us about sleep apnea. If you liked the video, please comment, let us know what else you guys want to hear, want to talk about, share it, all of the above. Yeah.
Just truck it.
Just truck it.